Happy One Wheel Wednesday, everybody. We got Casey on there. My wife's running the switcher, so she's got to figure it out a little bit. Holly, if you'll hit the switcher. Holly Mendenhall. Casey, sorry about this, and everybody that's watching.
Oh, no worries.
Hit number one, Hal. And now go over there and... Yes, Casey's trying to figure things out. I'm trying to... There we go. Sorry about that. Holly has never done the switcher. That is Casey from Lloyd's Board Shop here in Minnesota. There's no reason to delay. If you're brand new around here, my name is Scott Mendenhall. We do a weekly podcast. The summer's a little bit crazy around here, doing a lot of crazy things, but we're excited to have Casey, a local board shop owner in the Maple Grove, Minneapolis area. So let's get Casey on here. You already saw him. It's not. There you go. How are you doing, Casey?
Good. How you doing, Scott?
Great. Sorry about that. Holly, my wife, has never in her life done anything at that back table, and today she was thrown in the deep end with 30 seconds of training.
Hey, she did a great job.
Yeah. Meaning we eventually got there, yes.
Yeah, that's the important part.
It is. So for those that don't know who Casey is, Casey and I met really fast after you bought your very first XR. What was that, 4 years ago, Casey?
Yeah, I think I had something like 400 miles under my belt at that point.
Yeah, and we did one loop around a lake, I think, went into a soccer field and rode around. And then fast forward, we don't see each other. Some of that's 2020 stuff. And all of a sudden you have your own board shop. Let's just answer the question right away. Your name is Casey, but your board shop is not your name. Why is it called Lloyd's Board Shop?
That's probably the most common question I get asked. So Lloyd is actually my dog. So when I was trying to come up with a name for the shop, my wife and I were thinking about it and decided, hey, let's name it after Lloyd.
And it makes
so that's where the name comes from.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It makes sense if for you those are dog owners and lovers. It makes complete sense. I guess if you don't like dogs, I guess it makes zero sense to you. But I like it. For the life of me, when people at the beginning talked about Lloyd's Board Shop, and I didn't know you were the man behind it, I was like, "Who's Lloyd?" It took me forever to get the connection. So once the light bulb went off, I was like, oh. And now I'm really excited to be able to bring Casey on because Casey has worked on a few of my boards and my friends' boards, been returned working at an affordable price. Yeah, they all work. So,
all right, good to know.
That's one of the cool things about bringing you on is that you know how to make dead things come back to life on one wheels.
Yes.
How'd you get started into that? Like was this your dream? You're like, I want to fix one wheels?
No, like if someone had told me after I bought my first board, if this is what I would be doing, I'd think they were crazy. So I started off because I always like to try different tires on my one wheel. So I would always swap my tires with whatever new was coming out. And then, as the years went on, I got a community of friends that I ride with. And, I started doing stuff for them, changing tires. And my friend Dean and I actually, first time we ever did a bearing change, we used the dowel and the mallet trying to pound in the bearings.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's evolved quite a bit since then. And, after I've been doing enough work, I decided, well, let's just make it official and see what happens. And, it's been overwhelming the amount of support that I get from the community, and I never knew how many riders were actually out there until I started seeing the people coming in, and it's been great. I've met a lot of cool people, a lot of good friends, and yeah, it's kind of how it all got started.
Well, and you guys your board shop was at our last group ride, and it was so cool to have people coming in, get serviced by you to be able to get on the group ride. It was cool. Like I saw people buying W rails from you. Yep. Installed them, and they were riding them in 10 minutes. And that, to me, was like, that's awesome. You talk about fast turnover rate of being able to get people on their wheels. Watched it happen in a group ride, and it was fun to watch. You do that for many people. So you are talented at it for sure. Everybody thinks I can do what you do, but they've never paid attention that I don't feel myself doing these things because it takes me like 600 times to get it right. But we make it look like I did it in one try.
It's the magic of the camera.
Yeah, but you don't have that magic. You're in public working on these boards when you're at group rides and you're getting it done. You are very talented. But you don't just work on one wheels, because in Minnesota, there is a season for one wheels for most people. I love riding in winter, but a lot of people put them away. In winter, what do you do at your board shop?
So wintertime, I do snowboard, ski and snowboard tuning. And that's actually what started off. Like before I did any of the one wheel stuff, I was on the Next Door app advertising for ski and snowboard waxing and tuning. So that's actually kind of how I got started doing that. And then and that's how I got into one wheeling too. I would go through snowboard withdrawals in the summer. As soon as the snow was gone, I'd be bummed all summer. So I needed something to replace that. And yeah, as soon as I got my first board and started riding, it was over. It was all over. One wheel just took over everything.
Yeah, and it has for you, your name, your brand, I should say, here locally in Minnesota. Everyone knows about it. I don't even, I know of, and I guess I don't know all things, but I don't know of another board shop that is as well known as you in servicing one wheels. I know for us here, when anyone's saying, hey, will you change a tire? I always point them to you. Now, I don't know if they come to you, but people are like, Scott, will you change my tire? I was like, no, I will change my kids' tires. I don't like the pressure of changing somebody's tire and then they don't like how I changed it, or they think the tire, the rideability of their new tire, it's my fault that it doesn't ride well. And I just go, no, you just changed the tire. It's not going to ride like the last tire you put on. So how do you handle that when somebody brings to you a brand new tire they've never rode? Let's say it's a Vega treaded tire and they think it's going to be the best tire ever. Do you ever go, sure, I'll put that on, but understand that ride's going to be this? Or do you put it on and say, good luck? How does that exchange happen?
No, totally. So people will come out and, I have a selection of tires here that I stock and sell, but a lot of the times we'll talk about what tire they want up front. And then when they get here, if it's their first time on a treaded tire, I'll kind of explain how that feels. You'll feel and hear the treads buzzing beneath your feet, but every tire takes some time to get used to. So I kind of just give them a heads up that it's going to ride different, especially if they're coming from a stock tire and they're going to something more narrow, like a 6-inch tire. It's going to feel unstable at first, but over time you'll grow into it. And I've never had anybody go back once they get an aftermarket tire on.
The only tire I've ever gone back on, and I say it, repeat, this is like a resounding gong on this YouTube channel. The Vega treaded tire, in my opinion, is the worst tire, hands down. I do not.
It's the worst tire I've ever had to put on a board. I'll say that. It's so stiff and just difficult to get over the rim. And yeah, that one's tough. I'll usually let that one sit out in the sun for a little while and heat up before I put it.
That's funny, because when I did it, I was dead of winter, and I was like, I was struggling to get it on. And so I put it by the fireplace. I just put it right by the fire. I was like, this thing's got to get heat up. I don't care if it, because I was so frustrated with that tire. When people even give a thought to putting on the Vega treaded, I talked them out of it. I'm like, the compound on that is so hard. It's not enjoyable to ride. Unless you're like, isn't it heavy? Oh, man, you'll lose speed, range, the whole deal. Unless you're somebody that wants a treaded tire and you love bonking your way through trails.
Oh, yeah, that thing will throw you around. Sure.
Yeah, even deflating it down to nothing, it's okay. In your opinion, if you were to point somebody coming from, let's stay in the GT world, in XR, I suppose. What would you point somebody going from a stock tire to? What would be, in your expert opinion, a good second tire to go to?
Well, first of all, I'd ask them, what do they ride? Do they ride trails? Do they ride pavement? Because that has a lot to do with what tire they're going to pick. But so here I stock and sell Burris tires. So on an XR, if they want treaded, it's a TX33 all day. That's one of my favorite tires. It just carves so fluidly. It's just really forgiving at high speeds. So that's my favorite treaded tire on an XR. And then for slicks, I carry the SS22s, and that's like a nice mid compound. It's not too soft, not too hard. It's just right. So yeah, I like the SS22. So that's what I point people to if they're going to a slick. And then on the GT, right now there aren't too many options. You got the Enduro and the Street Pro. I got a couple Street Pros sitting here, but treaded. If you're looking treaded, the Enduro's pretty much
The only
that's what
option.
you got, other than the
Yeah.
stock treaded. I know there's a
Yes.
couple more in the works that we should be
Yeah.
seeing here pretty soon, but yeah, like
Yes.
whenever I'm trying to recommend a tire, I talk to the rider and get a feel for what they ride, what they want to do with it, and then we go from there.
Yeah, it's like it's funny when you talk to so many riders, especially newer riders. They think one tire does it all, and it's very difficult to find that tire. I think my suggestion a lot of times with tires, you pick one and then just mess around with the PSI from
Oh
trails
yeah,
to street because that changes a big difference. There's just not. I know a lot of people I want one tire, one and done. I don't need to mess with it. But man, if people could get accustomed to messing with a few things like the PSI, they're gonna enjoy the ride on different terrain better. So
right. And that's another question I get a lot. What PSI should I be riding at? And I tell people, there's that general rule of thumb, 10% of your body weight, and I mean
yeah,
that's a good place to start. But I always say, it's really personal preference. On
right,
trails, I drop it way low. I ride at like 8 psi off road.
yeah,
And then on street, if you want that extra range, you could bump it up to 20 into the 20s if you want. But
yes.
it's all personal preference, whatever feels right to you.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Mess around with it, find it, and then just work around that. I remember at dirt surfers for me, I felt like for me, dirt surfers is so chunky. I like it. I think I was riding 6 psi, which I don't do in Minnesota, but there 6 was like I felt really nice with that. So you got to be able to get comfortable messing around with some of those things.
Yep,
Um,
for sure. And that's the
let,
same with any product. It takes
yeah.
time to get used to something different on your board. And I'm afraid to even look at how much money I've spent on, on different accessories and stuff just to find out what I like, foot pads, rails,
Yes.
they
Yeah, I
go on.
just you can stock is great. I got no problems with stock, but there are so many different things out there, third party products that does change the ride. Maybe it suits you better,
Totally. Oh yeah.
and that's the fun
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, you can have a blast on a stock board, but throw a set of WTF rails on there, an aftermarket tire, concave rear foot pad, it completely changes the ride.
Yes, completely changes the ride. I think another thing about when you are at pop-up shops, boy, it's nice to see people get hands on some of the products that you see maybe from Float Life or other companies that you carry their products. You can get hands on, see it. You can ask a lot of questions to inform you on your decision because, man, these products, like a tire, what, $120, somewhere around there, right? That's a large amount of money to spend on something you don't know if you're going to like.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and the pop-up shops are great. I love interacting with the riders, and like you said, getting their hands on the products, actually seeing it, picking it up in real life.
Yeah.
It just does a lot. When you're going into it blind, just picking something off a website, you don't necessarily know what you're gonna get.
Okay, before we transition to like right to repair and some of the bigger community things, not so Minnesota stuff, pop-up shops and stuff, how can people get a hold of you if they have a broken board and they can't get it fixed, it doesn't turn on? Like you service everything in the board, right? They can just
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
tell them what's wrong. Okay, so what's the right way to get their board to you?
So the best way to get a hold of me, go to the website. It's lloydsboardshop.com, and right on the homepage, there's the click an appointment button, and that'll send an email right to me. So that's the best way. But I mean, I have people reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, all that. So, but the website's generally the best way if you want to set up an appointment.
Yeah, if you want to guaranteed you know that you saw what they're trying to do, go to his website. We put the link in the description for everyone that's watching. You can go right there and click it. It'll go right to his board shop. Do you sell things from your board shop that people can purchase, or is it all they need to be at a pop-up shop to get some of the things that you have?
No, everything that I sell at the pop-up shops, I have right here in-house. I have foot pads, I have fenders, tires, sure start units, rails, all sorts of stuff.
So especially those in Minnesota, you need something fast. You're not wanting to wait for shipping. I'm just telling you, this is the way to get some of those products, so you're not waiting for the shipment from California to here. It's just
Exactly.
right. Like that's what people need to think about in Minnesota. I could even if you're on the other side of the cities here, drive up towards the west suburbs, and you can get it just right in your hands, or even delivery much quicker. So go to his website, make your order, or get your board dropped off. Like I said, he has fixed a few of our boards. There's a couple more we're going to send to him, and it was very fast. It was so fast, I said, can I have a couple days to pick it up? Because I was expecting much longer time. And so I don't know if it's just you always working on the boards, but your turnaround is so fast.
Yeah, I try to have stuff turned around the next day, and most stuff I can. If you have something that takes a little bit longer on diagnostics, where I have to tear the board apart and try and figure out what's wrong with it, that takes some time.
Yeah.
But generally, most stuff I try to get turned around by next day or even the same night.
That's so cool. Now, that's for everybody. You know across the United States, you can go to his website and order those things. Give him some love. Get in there and just show some love to Casey. I love those that are in the community doing these things because it's helping grow the sport. Which I'm a fan of the sport. I know Casey is. I've seen him. I don't know, about every race I've been to, I've seen you at, and I haven't been to that many, but you've been there. You've got a bunch of people running around in your jerseys. So are those that are racing in your jersey, are they sponsored athletes from you, or are they just friends that are supporting you?
Well, it started off as just my group of friends. We go out and ride, and we decided to make up the jerseys, but this year we've actually turned it in to a sponsorship and a race team.
That's okay. So how many you got on the team? And I'm not going to ask you to name all of them. So when I hear the woo, I'm not going to go, okay, sir, because I'd hate to put you on the spot because then all of a sudden the pressure, right? Oh, I missed one.
Yeah. I don't want to forget anybody, but I think we probably have about 7 or 8 riders on our team.
That's awesome. I mean, it's a force to be reckoned with. When I saw a lot of you at Dirt Surfers, I saw you guys last year at Windman. You just see your jersey running around, which is pretty cool to see, knowing that that's right here in my backyard. And so and you have some very, very fast people.
We do, yep. And yeah, I just want to give a congrats to Nick and Sarah Meeker. So they were just out at Northwest Electric Fest, and Nick took first place in the amateur men. And Sarah took second place in the pro class and actually got an invite to Race for the Rail. So,
which is
congrats,
so awesome.
Sarah. We're super excited for that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that at Race for the Rail this year, those that are racing get to somehow represent their sponsors. I think that'd be awesome. So cool that sponsors get some airtime because you and other sponsors are helping these athletes get there, and when they get to the main stage, it'd be really cool to get some love in front of the whole community. So
for sure,
I was advocating for that when I was out there. I was like, hey, it would be really cool if sponsors, if it is an armband with all the sponsors, or on the helmet you got them to put stickers on it or something. So let's hope that happens, especially since you have one of your athletes there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be really cool. Okay, so you work in all these different one wheels. I'll give you a board, and I want you to tell me what's the number one problem you deal with in that board. Okay, so we're gonna start with the pints. What's the number one problem you're saying? I always do this on pints. What's the most common problem with a pint?
So if you're talking problems, or I have to go in and fix something, it's dead batteries, hands down, on the pints. You wouldn't believe how many dead batteries I see, especially in the spring, because there are really instructions on battery maintenance. So I mean, a good rule of thumb is if you're going to store your board over the winter or for any period of time more than like 3 weeks to a month, you want to store it between like 30 and 50 to 60%. So you don't want to store it all the way charged or all the way dead. Otherwise, it'll degrade the cells and your battery will die.
Yeah. So you're speaking to mostly Minnesotans that have winter and you put your boards up. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. They were just telling me, oh, yeah, I went to go turn on my pint the other day. And I go, wait, you just went to – it just felt like they were alluding to it had been a long time ago. When was the last time you wrote it? And they're like, November. And I was like, what do you do with yourself? It's been beautiful. And then they're like, and it didn't turn on. I go, well, did you store it? And they're like, no, I just put it in the closet. And now they have a dead battery. And so,
Yeah, and I've had people that have come to me and said they left their board plugged in all winter.
yeah,
So yeah, it's the dead batteries, and it's tough because when you have that come up, you have to find a used battery out on the market. So I'll usually just hit the Facebook marketplace or all the Facebook Onewheel groups, and just put the word out looking for pint batteries. So I
yeah.
try to keep a couple in stock at all times because I know they're coming.
They're coming. I have a couple. Now, I think some of the things with the pint and that battery is just people not understanding battery maintenance, but I also think the pint has now been out long enough that the batteries are, because I mean, I'm taking it from my kids, right? Most pint owners are younger because that's what's affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And so the children don't, at least in my house, they don't take care of it very well, like plugging in, and I don't have enough time in my life to make sure they're doing it. So the batteries are dying.
Yeah.
And so I can understand that. Okay, let's go to the Pint X. Is it similar, or
So
is there?
Pine X, I'm going to say it's the issue inside the battery box with the balance leads on the battery getting pinched. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Now, do you think that have you seen any new boards that has changed?
I have not. So I took a brand new Pine X probably about a month ago, and this
Okay.
was right after this started being a hot topic, and we took it apart and popped it open, and there hadn't been any changes to it at that point. It was a
Yep.
0 mile board. No one had stood on it or anything like that. And you could still, I mean, there wasn't any damage, but you could definitely see where the balance leads were getting pinched between the battery and the battery box.
Oh wow. Okay. So if you have a Pint X in your local, you can fix that, right? It's a pretty simple
Oh, yeah.
fix, right?
Yeah, it's an easy fix. It's affordable. If you have a Pine X and you haven't had that looked at, definitely go on the website, make an appointment, and get that
Right.
fixed because
Yeah.
it's something it's impacted every Pine X that I've looked at so far.
And it is a simple fix for someone of your skill level, but you're talking about you're getting into a little bit of the guts of the board, and so
Yeah, there's little things that you have to be aware of. Like there is a correct way to unplug and plug things into the BMS.
yes,
And
yes.
if you plug stuff in the wrong order, you can have problems. So yeah, it's little things like that, and just knowing where to cut and trim, and yeah.
Right. So I'm saying that because yes, it's simple, but it is not. If you've never done it, it's best to send it to someone like Casey to fix it. Or if you're watching this, I understand not everybody's from Minnesota. You're going to have a local board shop. We know of good board shops in Texas. So if you're in Texas and you want to, they can do the same thing. But get your Pine X's and get that fixed. It's inevitable. It's going to stop working at some point. So get it in to your local board shop and get fixed. Now let's go to the GTs. What has been some of those things that you've had to fix on a GT?
So GTs, it hasn't been out too long, so there aren't a whole lot of, known issues or common issues that I've dealt with. But I'd say one of the bigger things is just to make sure that your XT60 connectors inside the controllers are tight, because I've heard a lot of stories about people that they've been out riding and they go over a bump and their board just shuts off on them. And what's happening is the XT60 connector, it's the connector that goes from the battery into the controller. It's the one with the big yellow top on it. And if that comes loose, the board loses power and shuts off.
Yes.
So what I've been doing is, you pull that out and there's two male pins in there, and you just have to spread apart the pins a tiny bit and just to get a better seal on it. And then just for good measure, I add a little dab of hot glue all the way around that thing just to make sure that's nice and secure.
Nice. Now I've done.
Yeah.
I like the harness plug as well. I think Float Life makes them, and a few other places are making it. Have you installed those for people if they bring them in?
Yeah, so that's a different part. That's what holds the motor plug in place.
Okay.
Because that was another issue is that the cable was too short in a lot of cases. So, it'd be plugged in and be tight, and then you'd go over a bump or something like that, and it'd be just enough to lose connection. So, yeah, there's the clips. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they're cable retention clips that you screw into your rail, and it just holds that that cable in place and make sure that it can't come out at all.
Yeah, I like how you know the actual technical terms for things. Like you're giving numbers, like we're all following along. We're just smiling and waving at you, Casey, as you say these things. Yes, yeah, that one. Because to all of us, it's the cable on the left, it's the cable on the right. It's right, like
Sure.
you know the names. That's awesome. That's why we need to bring our things to you. Now you have a good partnership, and maybe you don't call it a partnership, but with Float Life. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm an authorized dealer of Float Life products. I also have the same thing with Craft and Ride, One Wheel Parts, and Burris tires.
Oh wow, you got them all.
Yeah, and that's been great. I just kind of started doing that this season
Okay.
because I'd have a lot of people that would come in and say, "Do you sell tires?" And I'd have to say, "No, you have to order one and then bring it to me once it comes in."
Yeah.
And this is just a lot easier for the customer just to come in and pick out what they want. And all those companies have been great to work with. It's easy to set up, so it's yeah, the third party is amazing.
Yes. I mean, that's where we're getting our tires, right? Like those things that we're enjoying is third-party things. I'm going to ask a personal question do you have any enduro tires for the Pint X? Do you have any of those
I
available?
I don't have any enduros right now for the pints. Currently, I have the Craft and Ride Burris All Terrain treaded,
Ooh, that's
and
my
I have
fave.
I love that tire.
Yes.
And then I have the TFL Hellerad and
Yeah.
the Burris SS22s right
Okay,
now.
that's good to know. I got the board you fixed for me, which is friends from Florida. They're in town and they're wanting a treaded tire on there, so I'm going to pass the word on to them.
Awesome.
They might be dropping it back off to have you install a treaded tire or pick up the treaded tire. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but I was asking for them, so that's good to know.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you are a busy man in the community of One Wheel, and we thank you for that. Is there anything else that we've missed in your journey with One Wheel that you want those that are watching or that will be watching off of your website and stuff? Is there other things that they need to know about what you do or future hopes and dreams for you?
I don't really know what the future holds for this. If when I first started this, I had no idea it would turn into what it is. It kind of just exploded when I started, and it just gets every year it gets busier and busier. And but no, it's great. I mean, it takes up a lot of time, but I enjoy doing it. And in what I do, there's no better feeling than when someone brings in a board that doesn't work, they can't ride, and I'm able to get them back on their board again.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about doing this and running a shop.
That's so cool. Like, because without you, there's so many people who just have dead boards, just big paperweights.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it. You can fix things that would cost a lot more if you had to ship it out to One Wheel. So
Right.
we'll ask one more big question because you probably have more to say on it than a guy like me. You own a shop. In your opinion, right to repair. Do you see it from both sides, or you always go, no, we should always be able to crack into these boards and they not get bricked?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I definitely see future motion side of it on certain aspects, but I fully support the right to repair and to take care of something that you own if you want to.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest issues there is just accessibility. Like, there aren't any other options other than boxing it up and shipping it across the country, not to mention people that live in other countries overseas. Yeah. And that's why shops like mine exist. So we can provide people a local place where they can bring their board for accessory installs, repairs, and all of that.
Now, as a board shop owner, would you, let's say, what if One Wheel dreamt up a plan like you could buy in to be a repair, an official One Wheel licensed repair center, but it would require you to give $20,000 or something, one-time fee. Would that be worth it to you to become a service center where they give you every component and part, or are you saying no? I wouldn't want to pay that.
That's a tough question because I would definitely have to know more about it and hear more of the details. But I think that having authorized service centers is something that would be great for the community and great for the shops too in certain aspects. Like,
Yeah.
right now, my wheelhouse is tires, bearings, that sort of thing. But once you get into the intricate electrical problems,
Mm.
BMSs, controllers, that's when it's kind of above my head, and I lean on other shops, that have more experience with things like that. And a lot of times I'll send those out to there's a shop in Georgia that I'll send those to, and the guy's like a wizard with BMSs
Ah.
and controllers and stuff like that. But he's got a long lead time because he's very in demand.
Yep.
So yeah, if there would be an option to have support from Future Motion where I could have controllers, BMSs on
Yeah.
hand, and I could swap those out same day and get those riders back on their boards. I mean, that's invaluable right there.
Yeah, I just imagine them training you, right? I'm just picturing there would have to be in the fly you out training, but it has to be you see a value of it. And I'm just sending 20 grand. I have no idea what it like.
Sure.
I'm dreaming with you, like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool to have a licensed, certified, one-wheel dealer where you get every component, little screw, everything you have access to. Obviously, they're not going to do that to just anyone that signs up. That'd be silly. But I could see them going, okay, this flat rate, and you get trained like a licensed technician with Jeep, right? That's how I'm thinking. Like, you see that a lot of times in automotive stuff. If you want to work on Jeeps and get Jeep parts, you got to be licensed to do that, but you have to go through
Sure.
classes. So it would be an interesting way for Onewheel to handle this. You would weed out a lot of people by putting a price tag on it, I think, of, hey, it's $50,000 a year, $10,000, whatever it is. But now you have an investment that says, I'm going to do something with it. I could see, man, it'd be awesome to have that just local here with you.
Right. For sure. And
So,
on the other side of the coin on that though, it's I get to run my shop my way. I get to do
yeah.
things how I want to. I'm my own boss, and I have my third party vendors that I work with. And so there's a lot of little things in there that would have to be ironed out. And,
Right.
but I think having
Yes.
authorized one wheel service centers is a great idea. And with just the advancement of the sport and more competition coming in, I think it's something that's going to have to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think, again, maybe this is unique to Minnesota, but because you have a shorter riding season than California, my board goes down and I'm out 6-7 weeks. Well, if that happened today and I'm out 6-7 weeks, I'm in winter. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, that's too long. To be able to be out maybe a week, okay, now we're talking. And so it's just interesting to hear your perspectives on that because, me, I can see all sides of it because I don't have any dog in the race kind of thing, right? So to me, I can see it both ways, but to hear it from you is really cool. Casey, thank you so much for your time today. It's cool to yeah, you'll be back on here. It'll be fun as we continue to develop what we're doing here. It'll be fun to have you in the studio, out and things.
For sure.
It'll be great to
come
have.
check that track out.
You do. It's right in your backyard. I know Lily and Holly would love to sit down and chat with you on the podcast. They're busy. As I said offline, they're busy helping run a camp for middle school, high schoolers. So I slipped away to do the interview today for everybody that's watching on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do it. We're always doing things all about Onewheel Community. We have a group ride July 30th for those in Minnesota. Lloyd's Board Shop by Casey will be there on a Sunday. It will be at noon. It will be in the parking lot of the Man's Theater. Will be the starting point and the end point. It's a lot. We feed you for free. There's no cost. We'll feed you. Come. It's a good time. And
we'll be there installing accessories, products, and even if you don't need anything, just stop by, say hi, and I love chatting one wheels. So
yeah, he does, and he's good
a
at
great
it.
time. I love those pop-ups.
It'll be fun to have you guys back out there. And for a little bit more business on our YouTube channel, you might see us or miss us over the next couple of weeks. We're redoing an office here in studios, so it's been a crazy summer for us. Some people in the chat, Casey, were like, "Oh, it's been a while. We haven't seen you for 2 weeks." Life's caught up with us, and so I think last week Casey was supposed to be on, and I texted him. I think Wednesday morning, or Tuesday night, I said, "Hey, we just got an email. The internet is going to be shut off for 24 hours." So we couldn't do it. So it's just the way it goes.
Sometimes it's outside of your control.
That's right. Casey, have an enjoyable rest of your day. Thank you for taking time to hang with us. Thanks for fixing all of our one wheels around here. Have a great day, okay?
Thanks a lot, Scott. You too.
All right, bye, Casey. And then everybody else is still watching. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We have a lot of content that we have filmed. We are currently still homeless as a office and studio. Right now, to keep the computer working even remotely close, we have to use a fan to keep it cooled down because it's very warm. We're figuring it out. We have a lot of content that's going to be dropping, so make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thank you, everybody that are fans around here. Thank you for those that are in Minnesota that come to our group rides and get your boards to Lloyd's Board Shop. Brought to you by Casey. You guys are awesome. Always answer this question: what would love require you to do? Because that makes the world a better place, everybody. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you on the next one because this one is over. But Holly's got to figure out how to end it, and so she thinks she has it. Adios, everybody. She clicked the button.